Hello and welcome to 1189, where I'm doing one chapter a day for 1189 days, a commentary on each chapter of the Bible, basically. Today we're going to look at Genesis 8, where the flood subsiding, God's closing all the windows of heaven and shutting the fountains of the deep. Yeah, it's kind of weird terminology, but we looked at it in Genesis 7. If you want to go there, it's probably in your recommendations on the side. Or you can just go to the channel and search for it. But today, we're in Genesis 8. Let's get into it.
And God remembered Noah, and every living thing, and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged, the fountains also of the deep, and the windows of heaven.
Listen. So that right there, the wind there should be Ruach. Because Ruach and Ruach just denotes the spirit wind. So what was moving upon the deep in the first book of Genesis, in the first book of the Bible, in the first chapter? The spirit was hovering upon the face of the deep. So now we see a correlation between the floods. Okay, the correlation between the two events. So we can assume that there was a flood before. We can assume, or you can choose not to assume that with me, but yeah, we just see the spirit always moves in turmoil, in it's a horrible state. Like, for example, each time you see the moves of the Holy Spirit, like in terms of revival, reformation, it's been when the world, because the world is waters, is in turmoil. Where there is disorder, God comes and brings order. Right then.
Heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated, and the...
So, listen. So that 150 days is an interesting thing, because then we can know how to measure months. Okay, no, we can't really know how, but we can know how long the months were. So we're going to see later on how many months this took, and we're going to calculate using the months and days how many days the months were. Is that cool? Cool.
The ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month.
It rested on the 7th month on the 17th day of the month. So now, 7th month, 17th day. So the waters began, the floods were open, the rain began on the 2nd month of the 17th day in Genesis 7, which we saw yesterday. And here we see that on the 7th month of the 17th day, so that's exactly 5 months. So how many, so it's 150 days divided by 5 months. That's 30 days. 5 months, 150 days, that's 30 days each month. So each month is supposed to be 30 days. So why does a Gregorian have 31, 28, 29? I think it's just to make up for the because like each year is 365 and a quarter. So how do you make up for a quarter? You add a leap year. That's what you do. You add a whole day to a year, and you cancel out the quarters from 3 years. That's what you do. Concerning the days in the month, so 30 times 12 would be, quick maths would tell you that's 360. So we'd have to have four days. Oh goodness, this is so 4 days added on. 4 days and no, actually 360. Yeah, 360. We have 5 days and a half added on. How are you going to add 5 days? So they're all divided in between July, June, to make the full 4 seasons of the year. If you want to make a better calendar, go ahead. Go ahead.
Upon the mountains of Ararat, and the waters decreased continually until the...
Now, no one has any idea what Ararat means, but the Hebrew word for hills, mountain, is har, something like that. And then for descended is yar. So har yar means the mountain of descent, which would make sense because Note that the ark descended on the hill.
The 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen.
The 10th month, the first day of the month. So that's 7 months. And let's say 17 minus 1, 16. 16. So 30 minus 16 would be 14. So 7 months and 14 days from the beginning of the flood, the waters begin to move away from the mountains, something like that.
And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent forth a raven which went.
Right, so that's 190. I don't know why I'm calculating all this because my head works in a mathematical way. Maybe it will make sense in time to come.
Went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. Also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were
So, there's a raven and a dove. Let's complete the dove's
abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark.
Notice, the raven did not return, but the dove returns. So, Noah is like a type of, let's say what? Jesus told the disciples, if someone receives you, if a home receives you, let your peace remain. The peace is, the dove is a representation of peace. So the dove did not find any reception on the earth, so its peace returned to the sender of the peace. Meanwhile, the raven, which was the animal that was sustaining Elijah in 1 Kings 19:20, around there, you can go read that, is the raven is it tends towards wilderness kind of experiences. Not really. A dove doesn't really do with wilderness. It does. A dove appears before the wilderness, like with Jesus, and baptism. A dove appeared on his head, coming towards him. It's a filling of the Holy Spirit. And then suddenly, you have the ravens in the wilderness for Elijah. So, the ravens are meant for tough times, I guess. Yeah. That's all I can say for now. I don't fully have an understanding of why the raven stayed. I think it probably died, because like, where are you gonna go? Because there's no food out there. And so the raven went, and the dove came back. So the dove is gonna be sent out again and it will come back with a olive branch.
Ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her, and pulled her in unto him into the ark. And he stayed yet other 7 days. And again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him.
Notice also, I forgot to mention this. 40 is a number of testing in the wilderness. Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days, 40 nights. Israel was in the wilderness for 40 years. And who else? Where else do we see that? It's in plenty of places. I think I mentioned it a few... No, I didn't. I must have mentioned it between Genesis 1 to 7. But the no 40... Anyway, so 40 is just the wilderness type of thing. So the ravens come in the wilderness to the 40 days. So now the dove is sent again.
Him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth.
Now, it comes in the evening. In the evening of the day with a branch in its olive branch. Did it say olive? Let's just turn back to make sure. Olive, there we are.
He stayed yet other 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And the dove came into him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf.
Yes, an olive leaf, not even a branch. So an olive is a representation of anointing oil. Cause it's where you get the oil. It's because in Zechariah it talks about the 2 olive trees who were Zerubbabel and Joshua, the high priest. So, and also in Revelation it talks about the 2 olive trees who I believe, who were in Revelations, the 2 witnesses. And I believe the 2 witnesses are Enoch and Elijah, right? So the olive represents the some people who are specially anointed for a thing. So yeah, there we have it. So why did it bring an olive tree first, an olive leaf? Why? Maybe because it's, I don't know. I'm not even gonna make stuff up right here. Let's go on.
Plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. And he stayed yet other 7 days, and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him any more. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the 1st month, the 1st day of the month, the waters were dried up from off the earth.
Right. There was a certain passage where it said the 15th day of the 17th day of the 7th month. I'll just turn there real quick. Bear with me for a second. So that's Genesis chapter 8 and verse something. I'm not sure of the verse. Right. So should be verse 4. Of the month. Yeah, and the ark rested in the 7th month of 7th month of the 17th day. So we said that 5 months from the time the waters were let loose. Now the 7th month and the 17th day is just the 3rd day of the Feast of Tabernacles, because in Leviticus 23:34 we read, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days to the Lord." So now that's the 3rd day of the Feast of Tabernacles. Good. Now the 3rd day, if you've listened to any of the past chapters, one day with the Lord is like 1,000 years, right? So that's in 2 Peter something. You can Google that. So now the 3rd day would be, the first day would be 1,000, second day would be 2,000, 3rd day would be the beginning of the 3rd day would be the 3,000, which would begin at 2001, 2002, 2003. Yeah, so that's where it would begin. So in Hosea something, I don't know the exact chapter and verse, it talks about I will, in 2 days I will establish them, something like that, and then on the 3rd day I will raise them up to be in my presence. So on the 3rd day, the ark, on the 3rd day of the Feast of Tabernacles, the ark rested from all the tempests and tribulations and all that. So after the tribulation, we will rest. We will find rest. We will enter into God's rest, as Hebrews talks about. So there we have it. Yep.
And Noah removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons, and thy sons.
So it says he removed the covering from the ark. So we will not need any more covering. It's just protection, because we'll enter God's rest. We won't need protection from the enemy, protection from disease, because there'll be no tears, no death, nor weeping anymore. But we will enter into rest, into complete peace. Shalom.
Wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, of all flesh, both of fowl and of cattle, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, that they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful, and multiply upon the earth. And Noah went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him. Every beast, every creeping thing, and every fowl, and whatsoever creepeth upon the earth after their kinds, went forth out of the ark. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast, and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelt.
So, we see that they're only clean because of their ability to be offered. So not in the cleanliness, not in the ability to be digested in a way, but mainly for the sacrificial purposes, right? Because now if he had only 2 animals of the clean beasts, then he wouldn't have been able to sacrifice the animals. But now since he has like 7, as we read in Genesis 7, that God allowed 7 of the clean beasts to enter in, but then only 2 of the unclean beasts, because they weren't going to be sacrificed on the altar. Cool then.
A sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart,
I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth.
Boom, there we have it. We can see now why Lamech and Methuselah and all those people named Noah. They said he would remove the curse, he would give us rest from the curse. So this is something like that, from the toil of the ground. So the earth was really cursed. So God removed the curse of the ground, which wasn't Adam's per se, because he just said, you will sweat and bring forth the fruit. But now with Cain's, he cursed the ground on his behalf. So the ground was cursed because of Cain's sin. So it like literally it was almost impossible to get food from the ground. Imagine that. That's tough, man. So anyway, yeah, he brought back the ability for plants to grow and stuff.
Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease.
So, seed time and harvest just ceased before the flood. But we can't say seasons ceased, because there's no proof of that. Can't say day and night ceased. There's no proof of that either. It's just maybe he's making additional statements to the statement of not cursing the ground. Just a flare upon it. So, yes, there we have it. There we have it, people. Genesis 8 for you. Not that eventful, just like Genesis 7, but we got that Day of Tabernacles and 30 days, month thing, and all those interesting things. We got them through. And yeah, Genesis 9 tomorrow, and I will see you then.